and letting everybody in.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this February 14th, Valentine's Day meeting of the Boston Art Commission. My name is Karen Goodfellow, and I'm the Director of Public Art in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. And in that capacity, I'm also the Director of the Boston Art Commission. So I'll take a moment to update our names and pronouns and make sure we are muted. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually to ensure public access to the deliberations of the Boston Art Commission. The public can join this meeting through telephone and video conferencing. For those of you with us today, this meeting is being recorded and closed captioning is available. You can access it at the bottom of the screen. If you have trouble locating the button, please chat us for assistance. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and the Boston Art Commission believe that public art is any artwork installed in publicly accessible spaces where they can be experienced by everyone for free. We engage in discussions about public art in Boston in order to foster the creation and collection of artworks that reflect the people, ideas, histories, and futures of Boston, which is located on the traditional homeland of the Massachusetts people and the neighboring Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge the atrocities committed against Indigenous peoples, all of the communities that have been subsequently harmed, and the ways in which colonialism has created systemic oppression. We recognize the continuing presence of these communities and the Indigenous peoples represented in the city's residents, in addition to those in the diaspora. We also recognize that Boston exists as a result of the forced labor and economic extraction from enslaved African Americans. For transparency and community input, artworks proposed for City of Boston property are reviewed and discussed at public meetings of the Boston Art Commission on a regular, usually monthly basis. Working together with the Public Art team and the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, the Boston Art Commission is an independent board composed of 2 ex officio and 7 volunteer community members appointed by the mayor. The BAC has exclusive authority to approve and commission artworks intended to be added to the city's collection or placed on city property. Our meetings are generally held on the second Tuesday of every month, and we hope that you will continue to join us. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture has a dedicated public art team that facilitates the Boston Art Commission public meetings and manages all phases, daily operations, and duties related to public art projects cited on or proposed for City of Boston property in collaboration with the Boston Art Commission, community members, and colleagues at the City of Boston. Helping to facilitate this meeting are Sarah Rodrigo, Senior Public Art Project Manager, and Amber Torres, Public Art Project Manager. And we'll add our contact information to the chat. And I will pass to Chair Mark Pasnick.
Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everyone. I'm calling this public hearing to order at 4:36 p.m. Today, the Boston Art Commission is holding its regular monthly meeting. I will now take a roll call of the commissioners to confirm a quorum. After I state your name, commissioners, please say here. I'll begin with Vice Chair Aqua Holmes.
Here.
Camilo Alvarez. I don't think I saw him. Okay. John Andres.
Here.
Michael Canizzo.
Here.
Cara Elliott Ortega. I don't think I saw her either. Bob Freeman.
Here.
Brian Hone.
Here.
And Kim Pinder.
Here.
Okay, we have an official quorum. On the next slide, you will see today's agenda, which is also posted publicly on the city's website, boston.gov. We will now review meeting minutes from the November 8th meeting of the Boston Art Commission. Are there any comments or modifications any commissioner would like to make? Actually, I should say we're going to review meeting minutes from December's meeting as well as from our special meeting in January. Are there any comments? And I'm being told that's December 13th and January 13th. Are there any comments on those minutes from any members of the commission?
I had one flag for the December 13th. It looks like the last motion, the second and then the voting record weren't recorded, just flagging that.
They weren't recorded properly? Okay,
Yeah, I just didn't see him in there. I don't know if maybe I was misreading something, but that was just a
Okay.
flag.
great. Okay. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, I wonder, Brian, could you just make a motion to accept both sets of minutes with the comment that you made?
Yeah, I could make a motion to accept the minutes for the December 13th and January 13th minutes. Just with kind of staff review of that one comment I made to review the last motion for the December 13th notes.
Okay, great.
Um,
Do I hear, oh,
I'm
go
sorry
ahead.
to interrupt, Chair, but I believe that may have been a motion that was not seconded.
I couldn't
At the-
remember how we handled that, and it was different than the other ones. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Right, that ultimately it didn't go to a commission vote, but we want to make a note of it in the record.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. All right, so then maybe we're just accepting the minutes. Brian, do you want to remake your motion?
Sure, make a motion to accept the minutes from December 13th and January 13th.
Okay, great. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Aqua. As I read off your name, if you agree with the motion, please say yes. Aqua,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So the motion passes. Thank you, everybody. We'll now pass on the meeting to our director's report. Karen?
Thank you, Mark. We have two presentations for review today. The final design of Destiny Palmer's artwork for the Vine Street Community Boston Center for Youth and Community Families in Roxbury, the BCYF Center, and also the final acceptance of the creative by Donovan and Olmstead for the Boston Arts Academy in Fenway. And we have a few updates about commissions. We anticipate reviewing the other Boston Arts Academy long-term public artwork, Memory Diffusion by Masari, in March for final acceptance. We are hosting an artist talk on March 4th with the artists for the Roxbury Branch projects, Joe Wardwell, Nakia Hill, and Sobek, and it will be moderated by Aqua Holmes and Kim Pinder, both commissioners. The branch will open its doors at 3 p.m. specifically for this talk, and we're really grateful to them for doing so. And we're looking forward to finally celebrating these wonderful new artworks in the city's collection. The photo on your screen is of the bookmarks we made that we'll be giving out that day, which is kind of fun and exciting for us. And we hope you will all join us to learn more about the new artworks.
Can I ask a question? What's on the other side of the bookmark? And then a comment, which is, thank you so much for including the word by Vusumuzi Maduna. Okay, so it's a description of each piece and contact information for BAC. Snaps up to you guys. Thank you. Wonderful.
Little by little.
Mhm.
And I also know we've had Sarah had a great meeting, she told me, with the folks from Mattapan, and that project is moving forward smoothly as well. So we hope to be coming forward with that again soon with some updates. Continuing with commissioning projects, Radiating Safety by Lamerchi Fraser is in the final design phase. As part of that process, the artist team projected the current design onto the fire station on February 2nd at full scale. I think it was a very cold night, I want to note. This sizing and composition test was a huge success, and the public art team is excited to share that this sneak peek of the artwork with you in the top photo on the right. Members of the fire station were also there to lend a hand, and we are very happy with how this project is progressing. The artist team is now working on scheduling a community event for sometime in March or April to get additional feedback on the design, and we'll let you all know as soon as we have a date for that event. Safe Passage, the Amulet by Ria Vedro, is also in the final design phase. Photos on the lower right show Ria meeting with Sarah Rodrigo and Amber Torres on December 22nd to take field dimensions of the sculpture foundation with the assistance of colleagues from Property Management, Public Facilities, and Sasaki Associates. Ria will be presenting her design to the commission in early spring, and installation is tentatively scheduled for late summer, early fall of this year. And if you don't remember, that's going in the newly reopened City Plaza entryway, closest to Haymarket. And we're hosting an artist talk with Priscilla De Carvalho, the Artist Commission for the Adams Street branch on Wednesday, February 15th. That's tomorrow from 6:30 to 7:30. She'll share preliminary designs for art in 2 possible sites at the library. Also, an artist talk with Jenny Sabin on March 18th is planned. Please mark your calendars, and we will share more details in the March meeting. We're also happy to announce that Street Theory was awarded the mural consultant contract after a very competitive process. They have accepted the contract and will be working with us over the next 3 years on mural projects across the city. And this will be for different projects, including projects we're funding through Percent for Art. And we're really excited to continue to expand our work with murals. And moving on to the existing collection, in the past month, 2 paint boxes were vandalized, one in East Boston and one in Chinatown. In both cases, the vandalism was a hate crime. Typically, when a paint box is vandalized, we don't restore the artwork. Paint boxes are intended as temporary artworks, and since the boxes have an important function aside from hosting public art, they are liable to be replaced without warning. However, in these 2 cases, we are working to recommission the artist to restore their paint boxes and are working with colleagues to determine how to manage the sort of quality of the vandalism. And so we're looking into police reports and connecting with the Human Rights Commission. The Embrace was also vandalized over the past weekend. It was minor and it was quickly removed, and we're meeting with Parks Department this week on the plan for maintenance and conservation. Regarding the Embrace, our last meeting was to formally accept the artwork into the city's collection, and I want to thank you again for your flexibility and availability for that review and vote on Friday, January 13th. In that meeting, we didn't have the opportunity to talk about the incredible events of the week, including the opening of the Embrace and the 1965 Freedom Plaza. We would normally spend a lot of time doing all that, but it was a really big day. So just to talk about it all a little bit, this project had a notably robust public process and complex commissioning structure, resulting in a truly incredible artwork and a transformed cityscape. We first put out the call to artists in 2017, a time when public memorials were finally being questioned across the country and world. The City of Boston, with the BAC and in partnership with what would become Embrace Boston, released the call for an installation commemorating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s and Coretta Scott King's legacy in our city. We developed and facilitated an art committee composed of artists, historians, and poets in a robust public process, including nearly 1,000 public comments toward final artists and artwork selection. The committee was co-chaired by Barry Gaither and myself, and included Lamerchi Frazier, Aqua Holmes, Dr. Sheer Kraus Knight, Danielle Legros George, and Dr. Brandon Terry. In the fall of 2022, the Embrace by Hank Willis Thomas with Mass Design Group was installed. The monument differs from the singular heroic form of many memorials to Dr. King and others, instead emphasizing the power of collective action, the role of women as leaders, and the forging of new bonds of solidarity out of mutual empathy and vulnerability. The goal, inspired by dozens of community outreach meetings, was to create a living memorial with dynamic programming and community space dedicated to honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King's struggle against economic injustice, racism, and violence. The memorial was installed on the Boston Common, adjacent to the Parkman Bandstand, where Dr. King spoke in 1965, and close to the State House, where he testified before the legislature. It is set within the 1965 Freedom Plaza, which commemorates the legacy of over 70 local leaders dedicated to working for civil rights and social justice. This celebration of local heroes is meant to push back in a constructive sense against the disempowering effects of monumental iconography. Instead of treating Dr. King as remote, imposing, and impossible to emulate, the plaza further underscores the message of the memorial, that justice is the work of collective efforts and ultimately depends on people like us taking up the problems of injustice we see at home. I want to thank each of you again for your generosity and flexibility. In particular, Aqua, who, as I mentioned, participated in the art committee and also chaired many of our review meetings. And also in our day-to-day, Cara took on many challenging conversations, and Sarah jumped into this project on her very first day of work, reviewing the finalists for viability, and she saw it through along with many of our wonderful collaborators on Hank's team, the Walla Walla Foundry, Embrace Boston, and our colleagues at Parks. And you can see a collection of photos from various events in recent months with a lot of the folks we connected with. The week of the dedication included a lot of events hosted by Embrace Boston, including a panel at the Mass Design offices about the making of the Embrace. And we encourage everyone to visit the related exhibit, which is up until Coretta Scott King's birthday in April, and we can share the link to reserve a spot to see the free exhibit in the chat. Eiko, you're muted.
Was that panel recorded at all that you know of? I could not make it.
I think it was.
Recorded. If you could make that link available to all the commissioners who weren't there, I think that would be great. I don't know how many of you might have gone to it, but I'd love to hear what Mass Design had to say about the project.
Yeah, and the exhibit's really fun and it's different, because I think our involvement was so much in the artist selection and artwork selection, but they were so involved in the making and the design of it. It is really fun to go in there and see everything they did. Amber and Sarah and I have all been there. And lastly, the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture recently completed drafting an equity statement. Many of our colleagues worked on this document, which was a project that came out of our work with our equity consultant, Promoting Good, to better communicate our equity goals and the reasoning behind our work and priorities. And if we move to the next slide, we have it shared there. And we can, it's a lot to read through. We can add the link into the chat. And the land and labor acknowledgement I added to our introduction in this meeting, if you noticed the adjustment. Here. And Sarah or Amber, can you mind dropping that in?
Amber, have you got it? I'm sorry, my computer's a little bit slow.
Yeah, she dropped it in. Thank you for that. And lastly, we wanted to take some time to be thoughtful of the passing of George Fifield. George was a longtime resident of Jamaica Plain and a beloved member of the Boston arts community. He passed away on November 11th at the age of 71. George served on the Boston Art Commission for 5 years, where he was a dedicated and humanizing force in public art in all our conversations. He brought an innovative perspective about the nature of art to the city, for which he often advocated with generosity and excitement. On screen, we have his own words that he wrote up describing his work with us. George was the founder of the Cyber Arts Festival and Boston Cyber Arts, as well as a husband, brother, friend, scholar, arts administrator, creative mentor, educator, and a major advocate of new media. At a service for him in January, which a couple of us were able to attend, many folks spoke about what an incredible mentor and advocate he was. I was most struck by an observation Nick Capasso made that one of George's finest qualities was that he was fun, and it made people really want to work with him. And so we'd love to offer up some time for reflection and gratitude for George.
Well, I can jump in and just say that, when I first began my tenure on the Boston Art Commission, there was so much that I did not know about public art. And it was a little overwhelming, but George's presence, his warmth, friendliness, humanity, helped me to feel welcome on the commission and that it was okay to not know things and to ask questions. And that same spirit was mentioned by some of his mentees at his memorial service, that there was he would never say no. He would say, go pursue that, figure it out, let's do it. He was always a let's do it kind of person. every summer and at least the last 3 or 4 years when he and his family were on Martha's Vineyard, he always came out to my show. They purchased a piece for their collection. So, you know, he really was a family member of the Boston Art Commission, not just sort of someone filling a position, but someone who was embracing. And it's hard to believe, you know, I didn't know he was that in his 70s, but that's still really young. But I know that he lived full out, and he'll be missed for a very long time, but he wasn't stingy with life. And I like to use that as an inspiration for how I'm going forward.
I just want to add that that we were fortunate to have Cyber Arts at the Green Street Station in Jamaica Plain, about 2 blocks from our house. And I would walk down to George's show, and George would greet us and show us all the incredible things that were being done with the electronic arts. You know, someone who stays in their studio and pushes paint around, it looks pretty mundane compared to what George was doing. He was incredible to have live in the neighborhood and also to work in the neighborhood, and we'll miss him mightily.
I started at the same time as Aqua, and yes, I didn't know a lot as well. And I felt like George was just such a calming, gentle voice on the commission always, but with humor and enthusiasm, somehow managing to be a kind of gentle giant at the same time that he was somebody who brought a lot of innovation in the outlook and opened my eyes to a whole different realm of art that I hadn't had as much interest in maybe, and didn't understand in the same way. And I think he was just such a teacher to many of us in a warm and caring way. And it was a really deep tragedy that he would pass away so young.
Thank you all. And I think with that, I will give a final thanks for George, and continue to think of him as we do our work. And for now, we'll move ahead with today's meeting, but I'd love for us to think of ways to make sure we're thinking about new media and the work we're doing.
Thinking, just as you said, that wouldn't it be great to have some kind of a commission in his name in new media?
That's a great idea.
Something that we could do. And I think, yeah, the city would benefit from that greatly. So his memory would live on in many ways.
That's a really great idea. I like that.
Yeah, let's work on that.
All right. Well, thank you, Karen, for bringing that up and for reminding us of the wonderful people that we've come across on this commission. I guess we'll move on to our next steps of the meeting. Let me just see here, switching gears. We'll move on to the item for agenda for public review, testimony, and commission vote. So on this screen, you can see how you can participate in today's meeting. Please keep yourself muted during the meeting. If you have technical difficulties during the meeting, you can ask questions in the chat and a member of staff will help you. After presentations and our questions, we may open to public comment and testimony. If you'd like to participate, you can raise your hand, press the raise your hand icon, and staff will put you in a digital line for comment. You can also let staff know that you have a question in the chat. If you're calling in, press *9 to raise your hand. And please remember to keep your comments on topic and brief.
So, you know, our goal is to always have a productive and meeting where everyone in the community feels comfortable sharing their feedback. So just to reiterate a little bit of what Mark said, to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time when speaking. If you would like to submit longer written testimony, you can send that to bac@boston.gov. And also, while you may disagree with other attendees' testimonies, please don't interrupt them during their allotted time. Keep questions and comments project specific. And if you are called upon, please state your name, title, program or organization if that's applicable.
Great, thank you, Aqua. The presentation that we now have for review is final design of the Vine Street interior public artwork by Destiny Palmer in Roxbury. Amber Torres will present. Amber?
Thank you, Chair. The Vine Street Interior Public Art Project is funded through our Percent for Art program, which allocates 1% of a capital construction project's budget toward the inclusion of artwork. This is one of 2 projects that will complement the community center's recent renovation. Another exterior artwork by Casto Solano is in progress as well. For the Vine Street Interior Public Art Project, artists were asked to consider 3 qualities of the Vine Street BCYF and the surrounding neighborhood in their designs: health and wellness, community, and multi-generational use. And we're excited to share Destiny Palmer's final design for the interior artwork with you tonight. Next slide, please. Destiny Palmer is here tonight, and she'll come and speak up in a second, but I just wanted to give you her bio. Destiny Palmer currently is working at Thayer Academy. Most recently, she was an assistant professor at Massachusetts College of Art and Design. Palmer is trained as a painter, but her work explores the intersections of painting, history, and color. Palmer has participated in exhibitions at Antenna Gallery, the Colored Girls Museum, and more. She has worked with various communities to create public art projects ranging from traditional murals to community-engaged murals to digitally created murals. Palmer received her Master's of Fine Arts in Painting from Tyler School of Art at Temple University and Bachelor's in Fine Art in Painting at Massachusetts College of Art and Design. Next slide, please. The artwork will be located on the main floor, which is a space primarily used by seniors, with children's and youth programming on the lower and upper floors. However, through this project, Destiny was able to engage younger members as well. During a workshop last spring, right when I started, honestly, it's one of my first memories, and I was taken aback by just seeing our process in real time with the community engagement. We were able to meet some of the members and introduce them to abstract art, a lot of them for the first time. And if you go to the next slide, at this time, I'm going to invite Destiny up to talk about that workshop and how it influenced the concept behind the design. And Destiny, if you're ready, feel free to go.
I'm ready. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. One of the really cool things about being an abstract artist is being able to just sit and talk about design and color and pattern sometimes, and just the bare basics. So I had a really great time running a workshop with these little kiddos that had like way more energy than I can ever have at this point in my life. And we're really excited to kind of give me a run for my money for what I thought I was going to be proposing. And it gave me a lot to really think about. What they did give me was a really great color palette to really think about. And upon being in the Vine Street's community space and really thinking about who is functioning there and who is there all the time, it got me thinking to a previous project that you saw on the last slide, really thinking about my love for pattern and texture and color in relationship to quilting. And so I thought that might be a really great base point or grounding point for this work. And we'll go to the next slide so I can talk about how that's kind of moving along. So I really wanted to, we've done a lot of renditions of this project, and I think I've learned a lot about just how to, receive some of the feedback and really thinking about who's going to be interacting with this space. I took the color palettes that the kiddos gave me and really thought about how to utilize some of the organic shapes that are known in my paintings in a way that kind of make the wall come alive. And so I'm really excited that this kind of isn't like a repeat pattern in like some of my other works, but also, just organically moves around the space. And so the thought and hope is that this is a space that allows the color to be the focal point, and thoughts that the colors are reminiscent of something that folks are familiar with, which is always my hope when using color in this way. And so these two images are going to be a really organic kind of moving, leaving a lot of negative space on some of the walls. So it will be a little different than what you're typically used to in terms of a mural taking up one whole wall. I think next slide, yeah. And so this is another view of that. So nothing's really mimicking one another, but they're rather in a conversation with one another, these kind of bulbous shapes organically moving from one side to the other. I think I'm going to stop there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Destiny, for talking about the concept behind the work. And at the end of the presentation, folks, feel free to ask questions. I'm going to just speak briefly about the timeline and next steps. As you see up on the screen, we're hoping to get this design approved today here in February, and we could get this work fabricated and produced by April 2023. Again, this is a tentative project timeline, and it's going to be determined by our coordination with Vine Street. We're going to have to determine what the best time of year is for their community, what the best time of day is for their community to really transform this hallway. And so the timeline is subject to change, but we're hoping to have the piece installed by May or sometime in the summer this year, and then finally accepted in June 2023. David Hinton might be in the audience today, and we'll be meeting after the piece is accepted to talk about the next steps and really finalize this timeline.
Amber, David was here, but I think he had to hop off.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Amber. And also thanks, Destiny, for all your work with the community and for the vibrancy of your proposed final design here. I'll now open it up to see if there's any questions or comments from commissioners.
I had a question, Destiny. I love the way the colors are kind of floating. Are they painted on the wall and the ceiling to give them that floating effect? And also the second question is that there was a mural that was on the building in the first slide. And is that going to be a part of the project also?
Amber, do you want to answer that, or Destiny?
I can answer the question about the mural on the wall. That was a reference of one of Destiny's past works. That was a quilt, a pattern for generations. Destiny, can you tell us where that one's located?
Absolutely. You're muted, Destiny.
Or maybe she can't unmute.
Oh.
Oh, can somebody unmute her?
Thank you. Okay, sorry. So this piece I did a couple of years ago in Philadelphia. I was working with a community group that was really pushing for mural arts to put some work in their neighborhood. And so they commissioned 4 artists to make 4 different types of work, which was really awesome. So I think all of the members of the community got what they were imagining a mural would look like in their neighborhood. The floating part, so both this mural, I included this because this is a mural that was designed digitally and then printed and installed on the wall. And so this is the closest project that mimics in terms of technique to this project for Vine Street. And so I've worked with this design digitally and then superimposed it onto the wall. I think there might be we could do some ways where there is like a floating kind of atmosphere by adding a layer of shadow. And I'm certainly open to that, but the thought is that it will be adhered to the wall much closer than what the image is able to show.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I have a thought as well. Destiny, good to see you, by the way. I'm looking at this. Can you go back a slide, or maybe it's forward a slide to the mock-up? Keep going, please. Keep going. Okay, so here, okay, this is good. This big bulletin board here, which kind of, interrupts your design, is that something that's permanently there? And if it is, would you consider incorporating your design on the bulletin board so that it doesn't feel so interrupted with that cork? I know these, agencies have to have bulletin boards, they have to have windows, they have to have doors and all that kind of stuff. But I was just wondering if you had thought about maybe continuing the mural onto the bulletin board so that it's more integrated.
Yeah, I think what's really important to remember about this space is how functional it is on a regular basis. And so there's a lot of conversations about the work kind of morphing, even just over the lip of the door and onto the windows. And so that's certainly a possibility. But I think that that's just a conversation that I might have with the fabricators when we're getting closer to that. But I would love that it just essentially becomes the glue in this space between the things that are meant to be functional on an everyday basis versus and the wall itself. So yes, to your answer.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none, I'll see if there's any comments from members of the public. I think you might have to ask to be unmuted if you're interested in making a comment. Is that correct, Sarah? So you just have to put in the chat.
I did just try and change the settings, but I don't know if it worked or not. So if people want to chat us.
Just raise their hand, maybe.
Oh yeah, that's true. Use the raise your hand reaction. Okay, hearing no comments from the public, I wonder if a member of the commission would like to entertain a motion to approve the final design. Maybe also including comments that were made by the commissioners.
Don't be shy.
I'd like to make a motion, but I can never remember all the things that are supposed to be added. So, because I love this design. Thank you, Destiny. Nice to see you. So what am I supposed to say if I want to make a motion to
accept final design?
accept final design?
Or approve final design. Yeah, you're
Okay,
right.
approve final design for Vine Street Interior Public Art by Destiny Palmer for the BCYF Vine Street Center. And were there some comments that I wanted to?
Yeah, I think you could just say responding to comments from commissioners.
Yes, and responding to comments by commissioners.
Great, thank you, Kim. Is there a second?
Can I just say specificity on that is often helpful because it's hard for us to go into all your comments and know which ones you mean.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe
So,
specifically, Aqua, you made a comment about considering the artwork
Being integrated into.
integrated.
yes,
into
the whole wall and the message board, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
For more, should we say more architectural integration?
I
Would
love
be-
that. See, that's the language right there.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that sounds like a good motion. Is anybody interested in seconding that?
Mark, I'll second that.
Okay, was that Michael?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. So I will read it. If you agree with the motion, please say yes when I read off your name. Aqua,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes,
and I'm a yes as well. So the motion passes. Congratulations, Destiny. We look forward to seeing the
Congratulations.
piece.
can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Great. So now I'll turn it over to Aqua for the next one.
Yeah, I'm going to try to handle this next one. This presentation for review is for the acceptance of the creative by Simon Donovan and Ben Olmstead at the Boston Arts Academy in the Fenway, and Sarah Rodrigo will present. Sarah?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Able to unmute myself. It's difficult. All right. In September of 2019, the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and this commission released a call to artists for 2 new public artworks for the new Boston Arts Academy facility, which was then in design. The review committee, which includes staff and student representatives from BAA alumni, public facilities representatives, and a member of the design team, as well as Commissioner George Freeman and the late Commissioner Bob Freeman and the late Commissioner George Fifield, recommended that the BAC commission Donovan and Olmstead for the exterior artwork. The team was approved in March 2020. The preliminary design was approved in March 2021, and final design was approved in November of that same year. The project was also reviewed and approved by the Public Improvement Commission, and the artwork was installed in early December of 2022. On the screen, you can see images of the new building, some renderings from the architect, and a site map. I just want to mention that the artist was unable to be here with us tonight, unfortunately. And I want to thank the Public Facilities Department, in particular, Carrie Griffin, Evan Brinkman, Patrick Mulvey-Welch, Brian McLaughlin, Dana DeMatteo, and James McQueen, all of whom contributed to this project in many different ways, from scoping to completion, as well as Brian Senk with Lee Kennedy and his team, and the many different subcontractors who all worked to make this project happen. As we do with all acceptance presentations, I'm going to read you the artist description and share the images that they submitted to us. The sculpture is an 8-foot high by 6-foot wide and 7-foot deep portrait of a young woman, her eyes closed, head slightly tilted upward in an imagining gaze. This head is composed of dozens of laser-cut stainless steel shapes, held apart to create a skin of 1-inch hole perforated stainless steel. Each 5/16-inch thick plane is welded together in a stacking fashion by small rods that create a 1-inch distance between sheets. The effect is that of an ever-shifting nature as you move around the piece, going from perceiving the appearance of clearly defined topographic planes to seeming almost invisible when looking straight on from front or back. Additionally, when seen slightly from the sides, the layers of perforated steel create moire patterns and fringes. In parentheses, our innovation within this technique of fabrication, end parentheses, with the intent of creating a mesmerizing effect. The head sits on an 8-inch by 7-foot by 7-foot concrete pedestal with 8 well lights. Created for the new facility of the Boston Arts Academy, Boston's first and only high school for the visual and performing arts. We noted that demographically, the school's population was primarily students of color. We also know that images of young Black women are underrepresented in public art. Thus, we worked with student representatives to determine the visage of a young woman daydreaming of all the creative possibilities that her future could hold. And the we in this case being Donovan and Olmstead. The stainless steel sculpture requires little maintenance beyond occasional spray cleaning with a non-corrosive degreasing detergent and water, and I think we may have lost a piece of the description. My apologies. I'll continue. It requires no special cleaning maintenance schedule, and they encourage inspection of possible residue if salt is used on the street. My apologies, commissioners. I seem to have lost the second half of the description. It is in your folders, but you can see in the images here, the head is facing Fenway Park. In fact, facing the teammate sculptures and a few other figurative pieces that are along Ipswich Street on that side of Fenway. And these photos were additionally, you can see the moire patterns that were referenced in the description on the left, as well as an image that Director Goodfellow took where you can see the head at night with the amber lights. There are amber uplights in the pedestal illuminating the head at night. And one that I took on the one snowy day I think we've had in Boston this year, where the creative had a little bit of snow on top. And that's the presentation. Again, you can read the full description is in your folders. along with a write-up of the maintenance. And we submit this for your acceptance.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Let me put my video back on. All right, well, this is the time for us to have any additional discussion that we'd like to have about this piece. Any questions? Is there someone here who could answer questions for us? I know that you said the artist isn't here, but is there someone here? You could certainly probably answer some things.
I think that would mostly be me.
Okay, all right, well, let's give it a try. Any commissioners that have questions, comments about this newly installed piece in front of the Boston Arts Academy in conversation with Fenway Park and the athletes? I think it's very cool. Any comments? Questions?
I do see there's a hand raised.
Kimberly.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, as you all know, my daughter goes to BAA, and I was there for an evening performance. And also I drive her to school a couple of mornings. And in the evenings, what's wonderful is that people are always taking their pictures in front of it. And I actually just sent Sarah one that I had taken a picture of, someone taking a picture. So I think it's that's something that I just wanted to put out there because I go by that site so often, just to have that testimony in there that it is already beloved.
Thank you. That is wonderful to hear.
I'd just like to add a comment also that that when George and I first saw the preliminary sketch, we thought it was a terrific idea. When we saw the mock-up and the model, we thought it was a wonderful depiction of what will be. And now seeing it in its finality, it is better than both the mock-up and the model. It is just amazing. I can't wait to go down and see it.
Wonderful. Well, it's certainly fitting that we're dealing with this particular piece where George was a part of the conversation. So to end this meeting on the acceptance of this piece would be wonderfully poetic. I'm going to open up to the community that's on the call with us to see if anyone has anything that they'd like to add or a question. I'll give a few moments for that. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. So then that leaves us with, we'd like to entertain a motion to accept this into the collection of the City of Boston. Is there anyone who'd like to make such a motion?
I'd like to try to make a motion for this. I'm a little emotional about it because I just feel so strongly about it. I would like to approve, or we would like to approve the acceptance of the creative into the collection of the City of Boston, the creative that is a part of the Boston Arts Academy.
Does that sound like a good one, Sarah? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. So I'm going to do a roll call here. If you're in favor, please say aye, starting with Mark.
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Enthusiastic, yes.
Michael,
Second enthusiastic, yes.
Kimberly,
A third enthusiastic yes.
John,
Yes.
and I am also an enthusiastic yes. So the motion passes. We are now the proud owners of the creative. And I know it will give our city many, many, many years of joy. And every time I see it, I'm going to remember George too.
What a great way to end it. Sarah, can you pass on our thanks and encouragement to the artists?
Absolutely. And on behalf of the artists, thank you so much.
Right.
I know they'll be thrilled. I'll tell them to watch the video for all the enthusiastic yeses. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Bob, for being on that selection committee and navigating that for us as well.
And I'll add, I've been witnessing Sarah navigate the 2 projects at the school here, and I'll say they were real tough, and Sarah's really guided them through beautifully. And we really appreciate Amber's input too as an alum. That's been really helpful.
Real tough, but real good, you
Yeah,
know.
really
That's
incredible.
incredible
And
work.
I think it shows the special skill set we have with project managers here.
Well, with that, I would ask if we have a motion to adjourn this very productive meeting.
I'll move that we adjourn.
And do I have a second? Well, we can all stay and.
I know nobody wants to go.
I can
guess.
second that as well. I'll second that.
Happy Valentine's.
Thank you, John. All right, yes, so for Valentine's Day, vote for adjournment. I'll call upon Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Thanks for the heart, Kimberly,
Yes, yes.
and John.
Yes.
Well, we're all adjourned.
Great.
Thank you all
Motion
so
passes.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Great.
for members of the community that came out, Christella, Anita, Allison, thank you for being here as well.
And thank you, Sarah.
Well,
And
you know Anita's working with us now.
I
Drop
didn't
it.
know that, but I did just
Yeah.
get an email